or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to our third installment in our Archibus Cloud launch webinar series. I am Peter Costanza with Imaginet Technologies, and I'll be doing the introduction. And Greg, could you just introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Peter. This is Greg Leveris. I'm with Archibus out of Boston, and I will be providing the overview of the space management product.
So before we kind of go in today, I just kind of want to give you an overview because some of you are new for what we've done in this. So we're going to kind of do a quick overview again of what the Archibus Cloud is. Just one slide, talk a little bit about what Archibus Space Management in the Cloud means. And then Greg is taking some time to do demonstration, and then we'll go through some questions and answers. So to give you a cloud overview again for those of you who are new, so Archibus took their core product, which they've had since the mid-'80s, and on top of it, they developed something called Archibus Foundations, and it's basically a subset of the Archibus functionality available on the cloud. The Foundations product does very simple space, assets, and work orders. On top of that, there are different modules that sit there to do space, assets, building operations, reservations, and there also is a module for advanced space planning in SaraView. And that's the way the product is sold up. Very similar to the Archibus product. Those of you who are on here are familiar with Archibus. You only buy what you use. It's kind of plug and play a la carte type menu. Today we're going to focus kind of on the area of space management, and I'd like to tell you that space is rocket science, but we all know it's really about what do we have, what are our allocations, how are we classifying our space, where are our occupants, doing move management, and once you're starting to track occupancy, and then some analysis, be it at a personnel level or a departmental type level or room type level to help make better, smarter decisions. One of the problems that we all have in facilities management is getting budget. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I joke that facilities is always the redheaded stepchild of an organization, and no one kind of thinks about it if there's not a problem. When we talk about space, it's very basic, but we could also talk about it in the sense of maximizing your value of your real estate. So I pulled some information from some different studies that I had seen out through IFMA. But space, as you think about it, is one of the top 3 expenses of an organization. And in corporate office space, and particularly as we're starting to shift and people aren't coming in every day and there's more telecommuting, there's a large amount of space that's wasted on average. And while I think the study that I found said 50 to 60, let's say that they're double. Let's say it's 25 to 30%. That's a tremendous amount of space. The other thing that happened when we went out and looked at some studies around space is that a lot of real estate professionals don't have up-to-date data to make smart decisions. So as we look at space, even though there's these basic components of what do I have, what departments are where, which space is being used and how, it can be looked at a tremendous cost savings if you look at it from how can I take what I have to do some analysis and make better decisions. That was kind of my introduction. If you have any questions, you can kind of ask me in the Q&A. I'll answer later. And I'm going to hand things off to Greg, who's going to give us an overview.
Thank you, Peter. I'm glad to be here with everyone. And so today we're going to be drilling into the space management capabilities in the Archibus Cloud. And like everything else, and Peter, I think, said it very quickly, people not knowing what they have is one of the most important details. And so Archibus provides that capability to get into the key information of what you have and where it is and who it belongs to and who's sitting in it. So that's the number one thing. And we can do that dynamically and link it to a database and show us where that space is. And we can use the software in the web to go ahead, of course, and make changes to the data and update, organizational details, space classification, employee details, whatever it's needed. And we'll show that during the demonstration. Once we have all this information, we can use it to make a lot of decisions and drive what's going to happen next within our facilities. So if we take a look at any one of our buildings, we can see how the different departments and organizations use that space. And if I actually filter down to one of my specific departments, I can see where they are located in each of the buildings. And if I need to know what spaces are involved, it's very simple. I drill down into and get to the information about those very specific rooms that we're going to be looking at. Now, the other thing that we want to do, and again, driving to what Peter said, is the utilization of the space that we have. We want to make sure that we're using our space to the fullest ability, that everybody has a place to work when they come into the office. And so we want to be able to make those kind of spatial assignments and identify where there's available space, either that is vacant or has capacity to add more people to the space. So if we look at any one space, we would identify what the total capacity is, and we would count the total number of bodies so that we could see where to fill in. And that way we would know that, yes, there's one person in the space, but since there's capacity for two, we have the ability to add others. And this enables us to help use our space to the fullest potential. Now, things with facilities, of course, is managing change. That, nothing stays static. People are constantly on a state of move, and we need to be able to manage that process, but also use that process to adapt to change. So as we identify what kind of move we're going to do, so let's say we're going to consolidate a department from multiple buildings, we add those people from the different locations, wherever they are, bring them into the move project, and start the process of actually putting them on the floor plan of where we expect them to go. And what's the nice thing here is that we can handle straight up box moves, or we can use this to drive any sort of significant changes and renovations and reallocation and redesign of the space that we're working in, and help us grow to new kinds of space standards if that's what's needed to get full capacity utilization. Now, a lot of this, and that would actually be people if I was paying attention correctly, but a lot of this does depend on the ability to share this information with the employees at large. And these employees would want to know some basic information and get access either using their mobile phones or tablets or whatever they're working on, with the ability to say, find a space, find a room, find where Peter Costanzo sits, and plug that information in and have them show what building, what floor I can go find Peter, or what meeting room I'm heading to next within the system. So let's take a few moments here, and what we're going to do is just run through some quick scenarios. I've pre-recorded them to make it pretty straightforward. We'll start at the employee level, somebody who needs to view information. And what we're going to do is do a couple of quick things. What I want to do is find a specific employee, and we're looking for Ginger Aber. And by picking the locate function, very easy, very straightforward. We see the building and floor that Ginger is. We've matched up her record, and we can quickly locate where she is and go visit her if need be. If I'm looking for a specific type of meeting space, whether it has a name or a room number, I can do that and identify again what building and what floor it's on and go locate that information. I can also use the system to help initiate activities. So for instance, if I wanted to request a move for myself and I'm going to pick a new location where I want to go, I can immediately jump in and request this move, but also keep up with the status of what's going on. So here we submit the ticket, ask to move the equipment that's assigned to me, my PC, my monitor, whatever else is associated. The request is generated, and I can follow the status of that request. So what I'm going to do now is let you see what happens on the facility side. The facility folks get this move, are able to view it very easily. And once that facility move is in place, they can process it. In this case, we're just going to do something simple and approve it so that it can take place. And what I want to do is come back in as that employee and look at their homepage and see what's happened. So I'm going to refresh the page so that I can get an updated status read from the database. And what we see here is that the move ticket in question has been altered from requested to approved, and we can see that that's happened in the system. So the employee not only can interact with the system, but has the ability to submit requests and track the status of those requests that they use in the system. And that's a beautiful aspect of what Archibus can do to help better connect you to the employees that you work with in your facility. Now let's talk about how we go about managing the data that we're working with. So again, we'll jump into the system. This time around, we're actually going to go to a home page that is specifically designed for people that are going to manage space. And in that home page, we're going to load our space console. For those that are familiar with Archibus, this is a newer version of the space console, much more sophisticated. I'm going to go look for a specific building and find all the floors in that building. In this case, I want to go to the 4th floor. And as you can see, we've connected the 4th floor to the database. And what we want to do is understand how the space is allocated to the different departments. You can see the mapping of the different department highlights that is available in the system. If I need to query the floor plans, I can even do that from within the system. So if I'm just looking for the executive management space, I can see all those spaces only. Or if I want to go in and look at commercial operations, again, what spaces belong specifically to them. And of course, I can pick multiple departments like finance and human resources out of administrative services. All of this is done directly and dynamically with the database to help us view how the space is being allocated. And at the same time, if I need to jump down and better understand how I've classified the space into workstations, offices, meeting spaces, cafeterias, operating rooms, whatever the case may be, it's there. And most importantly, if I want to be able to identify what is vacant, what is occupant, I can see that information on the floor plan and make some key decisions about where I have the ability to move people. So for instance, if I want to, I can generate a report that looks at the list of rooms. And what I'm going to do is literally export that list of rooms right from Archibus into a spreadsheet. And let's take a look at that list. And so now for the NCO5 building with all 4 floors, we can see a list of every room, which ones are allocated to the departments, which ones are classified, which ones are occupiable, which ones have occupants in them. All of this information can then be exported and we can do further analysis on the data that we have available to us. So that kind of gives us an idea of some of the things that we can do to see the results that we work with within the facility. So next step, what we're going to do is take a closer look at how we go about managing some of the change that is associated with the data itself. And where we'll begin, this time I'll go directly to the NCO5 building and pick up the 4th floor. So I don't even have to do an advanced search. I'm just going to go right here and select that one floor plan to work in. And remember, I have this allocation of space to the different departments. And what I want to do is be able to modify the data. And I can do that directly in Archibus. And so I can do a direct edit by selecting a individual record and going in and changing some of the department information. So what we're going to do is reallocate that space to administrative services. And within administrative services, we're going to pick the finance department to make that allocation. So to verify this information, we make that save, we make the change, we activate the highlight for departments, and we can see that space is now highlighted green to match. And furthermore, we can actually set the labels on the spaces to show us which rooms are assigned to which departments. And let's zoom into that room and verify those details. So we can see that, yes, administrative services finance is now belonging to room 4571. We can also edit multiple data records at the same time. So in this case, what I'm going to do is literally go in and pick 3 rooms to edit all at the same time. And again, I'm going to make that same change I did a moment ago. So I pick the administrative services. And again, using the touch typing can highlight right to the record or details I want to validate off of. Save that change. And we see that we can make, massive changes all at once by selecting multiple records to update the data. And now I've reallocated the space to administrative services finance. We have another way of doing this, which is to literally point and click. So in this case, I'm going to change some of the administrative service space from, um, you know, administrative service and push it into executive management. And now that I have that information, I can see the changes that I've planned to execute, and I can finalize those details by committing those assignments and updating my database. So we can do the same thing for room classifications, both at the same time or at different exercises, depending on who's responsible for managing that data. Now, the other part that we want to manage is related to employees. And so let's go in and again, drop in and talk about managing some of the employee information that's associated with these floor plans. So again, we'll start with NCO5 and pick the 4th floor like we've done before. And now that we've done that, we're going to switch over to the employee tab within the space console. And we are going to highlight for occupancy like we did before. And again, we'll zoom into some rooms and we can see the rooms in green are the ones that are vacant, and we can see which rooms have employees in them already. What I'm going to do is grab a few employees that I have in the system. And what I've done is just grab some arbitrary names to work with. And now that I've done that, I've put them in the waiting room, and my goal is to drag and drop them onto the floor plan. And we're going to do that. And in one case, we're actually going to put multiple people in the same room. So again, nothing happens until we say commit. So we're going to go ahead and hit that commit button. And we'll even get an error message saying, hey, wait a second, too many people in one of these rooms. I'm going to go ahead and finish it just so you can see what happens. We've now identified a room that has too many people in it. And again, doing a simple drag and drop, committing that change, and we've realigned everything to represent all of the employees in their location. So for a lot of you managing occupancy, it can be as simple as just dragging and dropping employees from one floor plan to another through the waiting room. Of course, we'll also show the example of actually using move management and projects to better control what's going on. So now let's take it to the next level here. And what we're going to do is jump in and see some of the results and data that we're looking for. So I'm going to focus on one of my buildings, my SRL building. And what I want to do is understand how space is allocated to the different departments on each of the floors. How much space do they have? In particular, I'm going to start looking at where my executive management group is located, because one of the things that I want to do is start planning to relocate them to another spot. So right away, I can see that that group is located on 3 of the floors, and we can see which of the rooms are currently allocated to that space. So that will be part of the move process that we're looking to set up. Now, at the same time, we can also get a better handle on what's going on the campus. So what we're going to do is get a different report that looks more at a site level detail. And we're going to take a look at one of our sites, which is in Bedford, Mass. And from that site, what we want to do is look at the occupancy on the count of people, and we're going to break it down by building. And we can see how each of the buildings are currently set up. So for instance, the SRL building has these spaces that we've identified. And from those spaces, we can see different, occupied, vacant, available space. We actually have 3 or 5 rooms or so, maybe 6, that have available head count associated with them. And that means that there's capacity more than one, but not all of the spaces are currently in use. So now we're going to jump into looking at the application specifically, and the thing that I want to do is drill down into and initiate a move process. And in that move process, I want to be able to take and move a bunch of people in NCO5. I think I mentioned executive management. So we're going to consolidate those departments from different buildings and locations into the TGD Technology Center. And we'll go ahead and schedule the move for over the Christmas break between New Year's. I'm sure everybody would be excited to be doing that kind of stuff. And we'll go ahead and set up the move. So we start by creating this move project. Now what we need to do is identify the people that are going to be part of the move. So what I'm going to do is use the system to identify people that are in executive management, no matter what building they're situated in, as I'm doing right here. And I'm going to move them all into the NCO5 building, and I'm going to start by moving them to the 4th floor. So the system will go out and find all the employees from all the different locations, and we'll sort so we can see that we have people in the boss bed building, we have people in the HQ building, we have people in the SRO building. So we can see that we have multiple locations for executive management, and now we want to consolidate them into one location. We've submitted the request, and now what we're going to do is jump into the Move console. And from the Move console, we're going to go ahead and initiate a move and update the status of it. So one of the key things that we can do with Archibus is create move scenarios. And by using the floor plans, what we're going to do is plan a box move to reset and reallocate all these people to this building. So what we need to do is go find the floor plan, and we'll add it to the project. So now we can use this exact floor plan to make the assignment of people from executive management into the space. And we can see all the spaces that are vacant currently on the floor plan. So what we're going to do is the people are already identified based on the move project. We're going to literally drag and drop a few of these folks onto the floor plan just to get us started. And what this constitutes is the ability to say, I want things to look like this. And, what does that mean? So as I'm working with different, department managers and supervisors, we can determine, is this the best layout for us to be working with? So we'll make this our first set of assignments for the move scenario. And what's nice is I can go in and create a second scenario. So I don't just have to do one, I can do 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever number of scenarios I want to create, enabling me to look at various alternatives for putting people on the floor plans. So we'll go ahead and create that. And we have to do the same thing, of course. We have to go get the available layout. So back to the NCO5 4 building, 4th floor. Always helps if you click the button correctly. So here I might decide I want to take some of the people and put them in a different location, not in the same area that I was looking at. So we'll start in a different part of the floor plan as an alternative view of what's going on. And again, we'll drag and drop a bunch of people on the floor plan. So from these scenarios, I can create different situations of how I want things to happen and enable me to make it easy to work with the department managers and see what makes the most sense, and then use whatever scenario I'm working in to determine what I need to do next. So here we have scenario 1, scenario 2, and we're pretty much ready to go. And now it's just a matter of continuing the process by moving that process along. We're going to auto approve the move, and once we've auto approved it, and updated the status, we're going to go ahead and issue the move. And at this point in time, once we've completed the issue function, we'll have to pick the appropriate scenario and use that scenario to actually complete the moves that we talked about. So that is, how we would be managing a lot of the change that occurs within our facilities is by using the software to help manage the process and make sure we update whenever the changes as we close out these moves. All of the employees would be reassigned to their new locations.